fractions. Okay. To compare fractions, you need to have common denominators. Okay. For example, if I was comparing 9/16 to 3/4, okay, it's really not good to try to compare those unless it's just an obvious, for example, if we were comparing 3/4 and 1/2, okay, well, obviously 3/4 is more than a half, okay, we can see that with our minds perhaps, but what we want to talk about today is those problems that we can't see with our minds that we've got to figure out the mathematical way, and to do that, we find the common denominator of each of our fractions. Okay, so if I was to find the common denominator between 16 and 4, okay, so in other words, I'm counting by fours, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'm counting by 16s, 16, 32, 48. The first number that we run into in the two multiples is 16. So that's going to be our least common denominator, 16. Well, my first fraction already has a 16 on the bottom, right? So we just bring it down, okay? My second fraction, I'm going to ask myself, what did I do to 4 to make it 16? What? Multiplied by 4. So I multiplied by 4 on bottom, so I must do the same thing to the top, which makes that 12/16. So which one is bigger, 12 or 9? 12. If I have 16 pieces of pizza, which is going to be more, 9 slices or 12 slices? 12. So therefore, 3/4 is larger, so we put the greater than, is greater than sign in the blank. That is greater than? It is? What? That is the less than sign because it points to the left. That is the less than. That is the correct sign because we want our little mouth to open up to the bigger number. Okay, 3/4 is bigger, so the alligator wants to eat 3/4, not 9/16. Okay? Yes, Trinity. That is my answer. Whoops. That is my answer right there. The less than sign. They're going to give you two fractions with a blank, and you've got to put a less than, greater than, or equal sign in there. That's what you're doing. No, you don't need to reduce it, because if you reduce 12/16, it's just going to be back at 3/4. You'll be back to the original fraction you started with. Okay? All right, let's look at another one. 6/13 and 2/5. Now, both of those denominators are prime. 13 is prime and 5 is prime. So to find the common denominator for those two fractions, we just find to find the common denominator, since they're both prime, then I can just multiply the two fractions together, or the two denominators together. Okay, so that means I'm taking 13 times 5. And what is 13 times 5? Not everybody at once. 65. So my common denominator is 65 for these two fractions. So, what did we do to 5 to make it 65? Multiply it by what? 13. So I do the same thing to the top, which makes that 26. What did I do to 13 to make it 65? Multiplied by 5, so I do the same thing to the top, which makes that 30. So which is larger, 30 or 26? 30. So I'm going to put the is greater than sign in the blank. Is greater than. Isaiah. Yes. To find the common denominator, anytime both numbers are prime, you just multiply them together. There's not an easier way to do it. Gabby?
Why do you multiply times 3 and times 5?
Because you got whatever you did to the bottom of the fraction to get to the 65, you must do to the top of the fraction as well. If you don't, then you don't have equivalent fractions anymore. It's like when we were taking those fractions in section 3, I believe it was, where we were taking a fraction like 3 over 5, and they told us to create two equivalent fractions, and we would multiply it by 2 over 2. Remember when we did that? We're doing the same thing here. It just happens in this example, we're multiplying by 5 over 5 to one of them, and 13 over 13 to the other one to keep them equivalent. But whatever you multiply the bottom by is decided on by how you got from this number, the 13, to the 65, or how you got from the 5 to the 65.
And on the top one, how come you didn't have a number multiplied on this side, the left side? At the top.
It's right there.
No, like at the very, like the first problem that we did, you didn't multiply anything.
I didn't multiply because 16 times 16, 16 times 1 is what I did. It was already 16, so I didn't have to change it.
Thank you.
Brandon, do you have a question? I'm just curious. I saw the back of your head, so I just thought maybe you were asking Lily a question that you needed to be asking the person that's actually gone to college and got a college degree. Lily? How we got what?
How we got the both of the numerators.
Okay. Right here, we took 13 and multiplied it by 5 to get 65. So to do the same, to keep the fraction equivalent, I have to do the same thing to the top number. So in other words, what I did is this. I took 6 over 13 and multiplied it by 5 over 5 to get 30 over 65. Then on the other one, I took 2 over 5 times 13 over 13 to get 26 over 65.
So whatever the top number equals is the numerator, never mind.
Yeah, because I'm not understanding that question you're fixing to ask me. All right, let's look at another one. 5 over 6 and 6 over 8. No, 7 over 8. So we want to create, this time I'll do it out to the side, we want to create 7 over 8, and we want to create a fraction, and then 5 over 6, and we want to create a fraction where the denominator is the same. What is the common denominator? Jesse, I want you to count by sixes. Go. Okay, stop. Now I want you to count by 8. Whoa. 8. Okay, stop. Which number did you run into first? Well, for both. 24. So the common denominator for these two fractions is 24. Okay? Now, Let me scoot this. I need to scoot it over a little bit. Okay, so we ask ourselves then, what did I take 8 and multiply it by to get 24? 3. So there's a 3 on the bottom here, so there's got to be, there's a 3 there, so there's got to be a 3 on top. This has to equal 1 over 1. So 3 times 7 is what? 21. So my new fraction over here is 21 over 24. Now, what did I do to 6 to make it 24? Multiplied by 4, so the same thing has to be done on the top. Once again, this must equal 1. What is 4 times 5? 20. So this one is 20 over 24. Which is larger, 20 over 24 or 21 over 24? 21 over 24. So that means we have the less than in the blank. Okay? I want you to try this one on your own. 11 over 15 and 2 over 3. First thing to do is find the common denominator and then make equivalent fractions with the new common denominator. All right, Brandon, what goes in the blank? What? Is greater than, yes. Is greater than goes in the blank. Here's why. We're going to take 11 over 15 and multiply it by something, and that's going to be our new fraction. We're going to take 2 over 3 and multiply it by something, and that's going to be our new fraction. What is the denominator for the new fraction? 15. So 15 is my new denominator on both of these fractions. So, what did we do to 15 to make it 15? Multiply by 1. So we got to go 1 over 1. Once again, this must equal 1 as a fraction. What did we do to 15? What did we do to 3 to make it 15? Multiply by 5. So over here we have 11 because we multiplied by 1. Here we have 10. Because we multiplied by 5 over 5. So, which is bigger, 11 fifteenths or 10 fifteenths? 11. So this was 11 fifteenths. And this was the 10 fifteenths. And that is why we put the is greater than sign in the blank. Jesse?
Like 11 15 times 1 over 1. Like in the column view, wrong. They have that part.
If you didn't show that part, is that what you're asking? Yeah. If you didn't show the 1 over 1, no, it wouldn't be wrong. Okay? As long as you can prove your answer by having the equivalent fractions that you looked at to see if the problem was right, then it's right. As long as you have this part over here proving your answer, then I'll be able to count it right. If you just put a greater than or less than sign in it, then you just may be guessing it for all I know. Okay? So you must have, this is the work to prove that right there. Because the whole point of this is getting you ready for, next week when we start adding and subtracting fractions, and we have to come up with common denominators and then make equivalent fractions with those common denominators. besides being able to compare fractions. Okay, let's do this one. This one's a little harder. We're going to do it together. 28 over 81 28 over 81 and 7 over 24. Okay, here we have to come up with a common denominator. Okay, and it looks like, let's see, it's going to be, I think that times 3. 6, 24. This one we're going to have to prime factor both the numbers. In other words, we have to find the LCM here to figure out what it is. That's 27, 9, 3, and 3. So that's 3 to the 4th power. This is 2, 12, 2, 6, 2, 3. So I have 2 times 3. I have 3 to the 4th, and I have 3 to the 1st. So I got to use 3 to the 4th. I have 2 to the 3rd and no 2, so I got to use 2 to the 3rd. 2 to the 3rd is 8 times 3 to the 4th, which is 81. So that's 648 is your common denominator. Oh, wow, that's right. We do it like we did the LCM for 3 days last week. I just found the LCM of 81 and 24. Now, to redo these fractions, we have 28 over 81 times something, and it's going to equal 648 on the bottom. Well, here I know I took it and multiplied it by 8 times 8 because it's right there. So 8 times 28 be 4, carry my 6. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 2 be 224. The 7 over 24 times something is equal to 648 on the bottom. Now, you multiplied this one times 30. No, it's like 20. Let's see. $27. Multiplied by 27. So that would be 9. 7 times 7 is 9. Carry my 4, 7 times that, so that's 189. So which is bigger, 224 or 189? 224. So the greater than sign. Okay, yep.
How many does it have on our homework?
Huh?
How many of those problems are on our homework?
Like that hard? Just 1 or 2. The rest of them are going to be like the ones we were doing previously.
So what's the answer? 648?
No, the answer is that sign in the blank. All right, now let's talk about ordering fractions. Ordering fractions from least to greatest. Okay? Ordering fractions from least to greatest. Now, Here's what I'm talking about. Let's say I'm given these fractions: 1/3, 2/5, 3/10, and 11/30. So I need to find the common denominator between 3, 5, 10, and 30. Well, let's look at the largest number here, 30. Does 10 go into 30? Yes. Does 5 go into 30? Yes. Does 3 go into 30? Yes. So 30 is going to be my common denominator. So I'm going to take and make each one of these fractions have a 30 on the bottom. Okay, so what did I do to 3 to make it 30? By 10. So we got to do the same thing to the top. What did I do to 5 to make it 30? By what? 6. So I do the same thing to the top, which makes that 12. What did I do to 10 to make it 30? Multiplied by 3. So I do the same thing at the top, which makes that 9. This already has 30 on it, so it's 11/30. Now, why is it 9? Because 3 times 3 is 9. No, what did you do to 10 to make it 30? So you multiplied the bottom by 3, so you have to multiply the top by 3. 3 times what equals 30? How we got 30? Okay, that's what I'm saying. 3 times what number equals 30? 3 times what equals 30? 10, okay. So, well, if you'll give me a chance, I'm going to explain it again. 3 times 10 is 30. That's how we got that 30 right there. So to keep the fraction the same, I have to multiply the top by the same thing that I multiplied the bottom by. And that means 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. Same thing with the 2/5. What did I multiply 5 by to get 30? 6. So I did that on bottom, so I must do the same thing on top, which gets me 2 times 6, which is 12. Okay? Then I look at 3/10 times some fraction, and it gave me 30 on the bottom. Well, what did I do to 10 to make it 30? Multiplied by 3. So I must do the same thing to the top, which gives me 9/30. Same thing with 11/30. What I multiply 30 by, I multiplied by 1. So I got to do the same thing at the top, which makes that 11. All of these now have been multiplied by a fraction that is equal to 1. And gets us the same denominator on each fraction. Okay? Now, which is larger, 10, 12, 9, or 11? Which is, hang on. What is the smallest between 9, 10, 11, and 12? 9. So this is the smallest, so that fraction is 3/10. That's the smallest one. The next smallest is the 10 on top, and that represents 1/3. The next smallest is 11 on top, and that represents 11/30. The next one is 12, and that represents 2/5. So there's your fractions from least to greatest by using their common denominator for each fraction. Christina? Is it always what? From least to greatest? Yes, it'll always be from least to greatest. Okay? Let's do another one of those. 3/4, 2/5, 5/8, and the 7/10. So I want to find the common denominator between 4, 5, 8, and 10. Anybody have a guess on what it is? 4, 5, 8, and 10. Jesse. What? Is it 8? 80? 80 is one, but it's not the smallest one. 40. 40 is your common denominator. In other words, if I was to count by fours, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, all the way up, first number I'd run into that would be common with all of them would be 40. Okay? So I'm going to make all the fractions have 40 on the bottom of them. So I have 3/4 times something is going to equal 40 on the bottom and something on top. What did I multiply 4 by to get 40? 10. So that would be 10 over 10, and that would be 30 over 40. Now, my next fraction, so this is 30 over 40. My next fraction was 2 over 5. I'm going to multiply it by an equivalent fraction and get 40 on the bottom of it. What did you multiply 5 by to get 40? 8. So 8 over 8 is what I'm multiplying the fraction by, and that gives me 16. And that would be 16 over 40. The next one is 5 over 8 times some fraction to get 40 on the bottom. What did you do to 8 to make it 40? 5. Times 5. So it would be 5 over 5, which is 25. The last one is 7 over 10 times some fraction equals a 40 on the bottom. What did I do to 10 to make it 40? Multiply it by 4, so I got to do the same thing in the top, which makes that 28. And so this one was 25. This one is 28. So, which is smaller, 16, 25, 28, or 30? 16. So it's the smallest, and it represents 2/5. Not 2,5. 2/5. What's the next smallest? 25, 28, or 30? 25. That represents 5 over 8. You will notice I'm putting the original fraction in our answer, not the new fraction. Okay? So the next smallest is 7 over 10, which was 28 over 40, and the largest, 3/4. 7 over 10 was 28. Okay, so that is from least to greatest order using the least common denominator, also known as the LCM. Okay, questions over that problem? Okay, your homework. Your homework is 4.5, 2 through 22. (4.5, 2 through 22).